I'm Basta.
And where are you from?
Hello. I'm from Oakland, originally from the North Bay, but been here for 20 years, so I guess I'm here now.
I'm Dage, and I'm from Oakland. I'm from right around the corner.
I'm Charlize, resident of Oakland, originally from the South Bay, but I doubt I'll be going back.
Hey guys, I'm Lyndon. I am from Oakland, and I'm the creator of Artsy.
Check.
The first question, y'all, we have, how closely is artistic expression and meaning tied to culture?
Culture is driven by art. You know what I'm saying? So in artistic expression, I think the only way you push culture forward is with artistic expression and integrity and stuff like that. So I think it's like synonymous with each other, if that's the word. But I just think that, I don't know, artistic integrity is why we go forward. Why, just to make another one. You know what I'm saying? Why the sound sounds like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, how the beat sound like this because one dude said, I want to use these messed up drums. And now we're here at this point where everybody uses those messed up drums. If that makes any sense.
I would say yes, they're definitely tied together. I think expression is a form, is a vessel of your experiences, and I believe your experiences is what leads to building cultures. So, yeah, I totally agree. I think the form of expression that comes through artistic expression is based on some kind of life experience you've had or a moment, and when you translate that out, those are the appreciations that cultures are built around and narratives are built around.
For me, I would say that expression is probably the base of a lot of our culture, you know, whether that's like how we express language or how our traditions, food. So, and I think artistic is kind of we're like calling expressions like artistic, whereas it might have just been talking and that been storytelling, and then now we call it artistic. But I think it was just expressing. The meaning part I think is interesting too, because I think expression has a very different meaning in different cultures, and I think that sometimes from whether you're a participant or an observer, that has a very different meaning on something you create or share or not, or why. So I think both are kind of foundational to arts, but culture is a key to that, I would say. So, but I think the meaning part is interesting because the meaning is very much your experience, your culture, your you know what you're bringing, or how your filter, your kind of framework, you're understanding things through.
Just kind of bringing those ideas together. We talked a lot about how culture is reflective of our personal experience and how that subjectivity expands as we create art, because you create something that's cool for you, then people start following. And those trends, we want to continue on into the next question. And I think that y'all have touched a little bit on it. But how do you think social media has impacted, one, you as artists, and two, artistry in whole?
So, I mean, I kind of came up during social media, so it's definitely helped the business aspect of my art, but I think it's definitely stunted my art, like it's stunted me artistically. Like, I feel like social media has ruined it stripped me of like the exploring stage of like my art, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like social media definitely hindered me a lot, but I had to take the good with the bad because it allows me to make money and monetize my art. But I do feel like it's limiting where my artists went because I'm like reflective of people and I'm always measuring myself by somebody else's art, and I'm looking at my art and like, oh wow, that doesn't look right, or it doesn't look like what's going on, you know what I'm saying? So it's like a slippery slope, but it's definitely hindered me, and it's definitely created my lifestyle at the same time.
I think one of the big first things is attention span. You know, it was like first the 15-second post, and now we got a minute. But just that idea that everything, there's a lot more short form. And I think about that like watching film. You know, whether it's with my son or students or even friends. Like, I love old movies, and sometimes it's just like how calming the pace of an old movie is, meditative, and you kind of get to notice things that it's all blended in the CGI at this point. So I like to see that, and so I think a lot of that is missed in the format that everything's delivered in at this point. It's also the expectation, like, oh, that's out, the next one's already ready, right? Because you already did your whole season, and you're just gonna drop and it's scheduled. And I think that's not how a lot of people naturally create. I think it's kind of building off what I think Doggy was saying, I think at some points it can be confusing or toxic. And the part I love about social media is communication, the ability to connect with people across the world or even across your town that you might not know. You know, the ability to have a gallery, to have like a piece. I think about the internet like real estate. You know, it's like if you have something that's valuable there, like a website more that people want to go to, you have valuable real estate. Instagram's already that's already like a big building someone owns, and we're just bringing value to their real estate. So I think that's a challenge that I see in there, and so I think there's a lot of abilities to subvert it. I'm not leaving it at this point, but I probably don't use it as well as some people. I kind of just treat it like a gallery. But yeah, I think for me it is, well, it's like, it's had me appreciate the short form and the pace, and then also on the flip side of it, maybe a positive way it's affected my art is like maybe not taking things too serious and like sharing drafts and iterating and sharing the process more, which I think is valuable, not needing things to be so polished and refined by the time you get them out there. I appreciate that part of it.
I agree with them on both parts. It's where it can be limiting because you have this high drive of comparison, and your attention span is just always absorbing something and taking it out. So it does have, you know, I think social media as a whole does come with some balance and mindset, but for me, it's expanded my artistic, you know, expression. Content creation is definitely an art form in itself. So studying video, studying other people's content, it's very good for market research to see how other people are monetizing off their art and how they're using social media for positive influence. I like it for that reason, but it's also open because it's the global world. It's opened me up to a lot of more artists in the world, from fashion to music to literature, that I probably would have never been connected to without the digital experience. But art as a form of history, and just coming from, you know, I came from art books, art schools, you know, like coming from before digital took over that experience, I still feel connected to the human experience of books. I still miss having CDs, even though I was just taking up hell of space. Like reading the catalogs when they come up, there was like opening albums and looking at, that was like the original graphic design, you know. There's forms to still having those tangible arts in your, there's something nostalgic about still having tangible art in your hand. So I sit on the fence. I refuse to get rid of books, even though I got an Audible, but it's just, to me, something about the smell and holding it and creasing and dog earring stuff. I like music. Again, I listen to Spotify all day, but I still buy albums, and even though I'm only gonna play it once, I just want it in my hand. Like, it's still something about having, I still want to have that tangible experience. Art is a form of human experience, so, you know, digital is definitely kind of hindered that, but there's also ways you can use it to, I wouldn't know about Doggy if it wasn't for the digital experience. You know, I met Boston in the street, that's a human experience, but both forms of it, and we stay connected through social media, so I think, I agree with them, but I also see it as a form of like opening your airwaves to what's out there. Oh, sorry.
Just, I don't need a mic. I would definitely say that social media has impacted my art in a lot of ways. Just you guys being here, I did a lot of social media, like, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. And even like reaching out to people, the panelists, everyone, and as far as like me building the coloring book and again reaching out to people. But I agree with Dage when it comes to like hindering your mindset. I definitely came to a point where I'm like, I'm unfollowing every artist I know. That way I don't see nobody's art but me, and I can just focus. And then, but then there's people that's like, I'm tired of looking at the same artist. I need to go follow 50 more people. So yeah, I agree.
Tying along these ideas, y'all talked a lot about like the structure that you have followed getting into your process, and how that structure ebbs and flows. You know, it's some obstacles in the path, and one of those obstacles being social media, and being able to balance your life in social media is an essential tool as artists. And so part of that balance, and part of, I think, the spirit of Hella Artsy Day is finding where to start. You know, and it's finding in your art career how you start, how you get your hands dirty. And a lot of people here, a lot of the people that are here, this is probably some of their first time they've been doing art in a while. And I think one of the things that we wanted to talk about is art as a privilege. So do you believe that art is a privilege? And if so, can you expand upon it? If not, can you expand upon it? We're gonna leave that open because I think that's a good cement.
I've never thought about that. I think art is a gift to those who know how to create it as well as translate that. Because everybody can say they're artists, but what really makes you an artist is if somebody else says it. You know, and so I think that it's a God-given talent that you have to build, and you know, if you really want to, you got to perfect it if you want to be great. But as a privilege to be, I think as a Black culture where we've had in artistic history so much of our art stolen, and you know, the preservation of what Black art means now, I think, and for artists that are like part of the newer generation, it is a gift and a privilege because you can be more free thought with your art. You can translate it across the world, like if you know how to art, social media is art, and if you know how to balance that with putting your art out there, now you have people in another side of the world that see that. So I think for our generation, it's definitely become a privilege, but I think it's always just been tied to the God-given talents and gifts that you already innately have.
Personally, I think art is not a privilege. I think everybody is an artist in whatever form you do. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if you make pieces, the way you put the pepperoni on the pie, I think that's an art to that. And a lot of times I used to discredit people because it was whack. And I'm just like, dog, you're not a DJ, or you're not a this, or you're not a that. It's just like, nah, you just whack, but you're an artist, you know what I'm saying? But it's good to somebody, you know what I'm saying? It's not good to me, and that's what the beauty of art is. Like, it doesn't have to be for everybody, you know what I'm saying? And like, expressing in clothing and stuff, it's like, I don't like that shirt, but it's for you. It's not for me, it's how you're expressing yourself. So I think art is just everywhere, and I think whatever you do, there's an art in it. There's some sort of art in it, you know what I'm saying? So I'll just say, just be free and do whatever. And just because you're, like I said, going back to reflecting yourself off people, if you take the people away, you're an artist, you know what I'm saying?
No, I definitely feel all that. Part of what I was thinking about is the difference between art and craft, and that's like, I had the privilege of going to college at the California College of Arts and Crafts, now known CCA, California College of the Arts, and so we had like a big conversation of when they dropped that C and went from the College of the Arts to College of Arts and Crafts, and they're talking about how it's more prestigious to be an arts college and not crafts, because that's like summer camp, what are those called? Popsicle stick art, that kind of thing. But really, craft is the process of making something, right? And so every art skill has a craft set. So whether you're making a chair or a pot or a light or stairs or a painting or a coloring book, there's a craft to that. And so I think there is a lot of privilege connected to access to learning craft. And so that's about access to education and programs and resources and grants and the institution of art. And there's a lot of privilege connected to that, and access and gatekeeping. But as far as what art is, it's expression, like we were talking about. So there is not, in my mind, there's the privilege you might have is your gifts in that way. But I think it's people's ability, or even your own ability, to see your gifts, right? Because kind of like Dage was saying, or I think what you were saying is, you know, people before they saw Basquiat's art in an art context thought it was just like wild, you know, they called it primitive and all these like kind of racist, horrible things about what they thought it was. But now it's like he's one of the most, you know, famous, known artists whose work sells for crazy amounts of work, so amounts of dollars. So I think for me, it's a lot about, it's about context, it's about your frame of reference, your reference points. But yeah, I would say there's a lot of privilege connected to the access to making different crafts, to the educational parts of art. But as far as expression, like that is for you to tap into what the privilege or the gifts you were given. And I think it's just about acknowledging them more than anything.
When I initially heard this question, I kind of just thought of like school, and like sometimes like people in schools, people don't have access, like they cut funding for art because they feel like it's not a thing. And but from my own personal experience, I've always had access to art supplies. I've encountered kids where I'm like, oh, like here's a sketchbook, and they're like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, it's just, I guess, the thought of not accessing certain supplies that are out there that should be out there. I think they should be out there for everyone. So, yeah.
Just co-sign, that's interesting now you guys made that point about privilege access, because we've always grown up with art access. Any school I've ever been to, we made clay, we definitely had some very creative art classes that were funded. So yeah, I would say I'm part of that privileged class that got to, you know, and probably didn't take advantage of it, probably catting off in art class. I probably should have now, I'm thinking about this in hindsight, but yeah, I do agree on the privileged access of it.
That's privilege. That what she doing right there, that's privilege.
Yeah.
We didn't have to wish watch Bob Ross in HD, so now we
A little too.
Exactly. Well, kind of tying along to that point. So y'all have all answered with a very nuanced perspective on what privilege really looks like in the art scene, but I think y'all all touched on this idea of gatekeeping in your own way. And as an artist myself, I look to gatekeeping as a scary thing. You like there's these big people in the area that know what they're doing, and they're gonna make me feel bad for doing it. You know, like if I bring them something that's unfinished, if I bring them something that's new, that's not necessarily in, they're gonna block it. So can you speak a little bit more on how do we provide more access going forward and eliminate the notion that gatekeeping is all bad? Because I definitely think that y'all are talking about the nuance of gatekeeping as well as you're talking about the nuance of privilege. Because some of it is necessary, or would you say?
Well,
Talk about gatekeeping. And me,
this is
like I
my
said,
favorite part.
you know how to talk about it. Talk
There
about
is
it.
no such thing as gatekeeping at all. You either gonna help me build the gate, or you gonna let me in, or it's no, or I'm climbing over it. It's no such thing. Period. Like,
Preach.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, this is like dear to me because when I came in, I do a bunch of stuff, but when I came in DJing, I came in with a controller, and everybody's like, "You can't do that. What is that?" And I just kept going, and I kept going, and I kept going, and now we're in a stage that everybody uses controllers, and I do use a controller in Dubai. I use a controller in in Japan. I use a controller anywhere. But people were like, "No, you can't do this, or you can't do that," and it's no such thing as gatekeepers. As long as you're like convicted, like you know what you want to do, it's just a gate. You just go around it. It's just like build a wall. All right, bro, they're gonna come from Mexico over. It don't matter if you build the wall, it's unnecessary. You know what I'm saying? Like, period. So it's like these. Was that out of pocket?
No, that's it.
Yeah, but it's like.
Great analogy.
But it's like you can't stop somebody who wants to do something. You can't stop somebody from being great. Like I laugh at my gatekeepers, right? Like I just laugh, bro. Like it's funny. Like I text my group text like, look at this fool. You know what I'm saying? That tried to stop me. But you can't stop an artist. Like if they want to do something, they're gonna anybody, they're gonna do it.
That's real, yeah.
If we're severing art from business, I don't think art is something that remains flexible and nobody really owns it. If you're talking about the gatekeepers of your business, then of your art business, then that comes down to ownership and how you're securing your license. But again, they even have laws and loopholes to say if you change 30% of the art, it's a new piece of art. So I think if you keep the flexibility over art is interchangeable, trends change, history changes, our mindset, it may be a dope piece tomorrow and tomorrow be irrelevant. So I think that part of it is there's no gatekeepers in that because art is an expression of the times we're living in. But as a business, there's definitely a need for more ownership and that's more or less having people to support the art world because they're very much taking advantage of as artists because their focus is being creative versus having somebody who's looking out for your assets and making sure that even if it's just scaring somebody with a little cease and desist, like sometimes that helps. But that's about the business. About artistically, I don't think you have a gatekeeper. I think when you put art out to the world, you have let that, it floats from there,
I agree.
Wow, my perspective's changed a lot on this topic. I think just like growing up has changed a lot. It's changed a lot even in this panel. I think I really appreciate what you both just said. I feel like as a youth, that was something that existed more. It was like I'm DJing and I can't go to the club yet. So how do I get into culture, right? I'm younger. I'm from an hour away from here. How do I get into culture, right? And so part of that was just like being around, right? And again, finding what the gates are and where I go around. and how do I exist within that? And so I guess I see it a little differently now in that I see gatekeepers at times within culture can be culture keepers. And I think the value in that is if it's a culture that's been done dirty or violated, there are people that are holding to not just the foundation of what it is, but the essence of what it is, and that is changeable and malleable. But I think, back to what you said though, Dage, I think that even within that, that's where subculture comes from, right? Because if you don't want to be a part of just this already existing element of culture, there might be a subculture for you that's adjacent to it right away that already exists, that you can tap in with, or that you can develop in your own. So I think I see gatekeepers in that way. I mean, I think I've seen a lot of negative context and have held that in my own as far as like what that meant as a young person, feeling like I didn't have access. But being around for a while, the way I've kind of seen it more is there's attempts to do that, but that's people like trying to like hold on to stuff that they probably should let go of usually. And then on the other side of it, I think it is folks that are just trying to hold integrity to something that they value. But still in that, like if you have a fixed point about what that is, I think that's limited.
Thank you. Well, that right there, y'all have answered a very large series of questions right there. And I think y'all went in depth, so much so that the crowd may not have no questions.
You guys have questions?
Y'all got any questions? I felt the energy
I
earlier.
have a question for you guys. I just want to know what makes you hella artsy.
Let me start that.
It's a hot mic.
Not real. So, you know, in comparison to Dage and Basa, I'm not an artist that has like a tangible craft. I mean, I'm trying to DJ at home, but I'll never come out with that. That's at home in my bedroom. But I mean, I'm an art lover, enthusiast. I'm over there trying to be a Bob Ross, but I do events. I'm an event planner, but I feel like that is my artistic expression, even though it's an intangible thing. I stage experiences, and the nuances, the color, the music, the art that you're around, the environment, that to me is what builds my Bob Ross for people to engage. In order to create or stage a memorable experience, every little nuance and detail, artistic expression is part of how we build these events out. Even though on paper it looks like logistics from what time the DJ sets up until the doors close, every detail of what the mood is that the DJ is setting, down to what colors and features you're using, that's all artistic expression in real form, in life experience. So that's what makes me hella artsy, is how I stage those memorable experiences in your mind that you will leave a lasting impression, and hopefully a great lasting impression. I would not want to do a horrible one.
So I think what makes me hella artsy, is that I feel like for me, I feel like I'm like Walmart of art. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like I'm not really good at any one thing. I'm cool at everything. Though. Like I'm like actually decent. It's kind of scary. Like I'm kind of decent at everything, but I can't never like. There's not one thing I do. I'm not that good at DJing. I'm just good at other stuff, and it makes the DJing look better. You know what I'm saying? To be honest, it's like I'm just gonna dress really well when I do it, and then it's gonna make it sound better, maybe. You know what I'm saying? But I think I like hella artsy because it's so Oakland, and I'm so Oakland, and all my art is definitely like rooted from here. So that's why I feel like I'm hella artsy.
I'm gonna ramble because I don't think I have a good answer yet. I'm hella artsy just because it's me trying to give context to my experience, and it's partly just me finding like other people that maybe are out the box or in a different box that relate to me, and so it's kind of just me pursuing me being me and being interested in telling stories. I guess a part of it also is I've been teaching Oakland kids to do art and music for 20 years almost, and I'm committed to being involved with the community from both, developing young artists to having them being young adult artists in the studio with us, to then like working with my OGs in the studio. So I'm hella artsy just because I won't stop. That's probably my answer.
That's right on it.